Assassin's Creed has been going on for over 15 years, and in that time, because of the sheer amount of titles that Ubisoft have pushed, there have been quite a lot of missions. And in today's video, we are highlighting what I believe is the best mission from every single title. But before we do get into the video, if you're really looking to get the best gaming experience, then you must partner it up with Rogue Energy. Rogue Energy is a premium energy and focus supplement designed to optimize your mental and physical performance whilst gaming. It promises to boost your energy whilst still being delicious. None of that chalky texture that you get whilst taking other supplements. The real cool thing is if this is something that you're unsure about, you can actually try this out entirely for free. They have a one-time taster pack where you can select different flavors to try them out for the very first time. And if you want more, well, you know where to go. You can use the link in the description down below to claim your free Rogue Energy samples. And if you do ever want to get more, you can use the code GTG to get 10% off with every purchase. As we're going through the best missions from every Assassin's Creed title, we need to go all the way back to the beginning with Assassin's Creed. As this is the first game within the franchise, many highlight that it doesn't meet the standards of modern gaming, but that doesn't mean that some of these missions aren't great. But a mission that has always stood out to me is the Battle of Arsuf. In this ferocious mission, you must ruthlessly slay groups of Saracens and Crusaders. That's when King Richard appears and orders a lethal fight between Robert the Sable and Altair, logically concluding that the victor is in fact not a traitor after multiple skirmishes and ambushes from the archers. As soon as this mission finishes, you go back into present day with Desmond, and it feels like this whole mission is completely different from everything else. It has a bit of everything, and it comes at a point where Assassin's Creed started to feel a bit repetitive, where you would need to go into a city, complete various assignments, assassinate your target, and then just leave. This really mixed things up. Assassin's Creed 2. For Assassin's Creed 2, we've actually been a little bit sneaky as we've selected two missions, but they're connected. This is Nothing Ventured and Infrequent Flyer. Both of these are missions with the Flyer machine. The first one is you talking to Leonardo da Vinci and actually testing it out for the very first time. You realize that there's going to be problems and there's no way that you're going to reach your destination without making a few slight adjustments. Infrequent Flyer is after you figure out exactly what those adjustments are. That's when you use the fly machine to infiltrate the palace and then eventually assassinate your target. This was always the most talked about mission, but when Assassin's Creed 2 was first released, unfortunately there was no replay option. But that didn't stop many hardcore players. They just went through the whole game again just to try this out for a second, third, fourth, how many times they wanted. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. Pax Romana is by far the mission that stands out the most. This is the final mission within the game. What was done well about this is that the Pax Romana mission was actually first teased in the opening scene of Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. This is how the game starts, but because of synchronization errors, you need to go all the way back to the beginning and play through each mission in chronological order, just like what mostly happens with Assassin's Creed. But with that action-packed intro right at the beginning, many believe that by the time that they got to the end, they already knew what was going to happen. It somewhat spoiled it, and it just would not live up to expectations. But that in itself was false. This mission went above and beyond. A great mission which contains a bit of stealth, a lot of action, and then also a great final battle. Assassin's Creed Revelations. With Assassin's Creed Revelations, we are going to select the mission of Set in Sail. Now, chances are that if you were hyped for this game when it was about to release, you know exactly what this mission is. This is what actually sold a lot of people when first looking at the game because it was used as a gameplay trailer. Ubisoft went through a gameplay walkthrough months before the release of Revelations, highlighting this mission. In this mission, Ezio makes his way to the harbor where a ship is waiting for him. However, the Great Chain has been raised, making it impossible to leave the port. What starts out and you just trying to lower the chain ends up being an action-packed adventure where you end up taking out pretty much every ship within the harbor. It is a mission filled with destruction, and it certainly takes away from the stereotypical missions that you were getting at the time, which mainly were around stealth and in a lot of cases just tailing missions. This really blew people away, not just as an advertisement for Revelations months before, but also going back for it again after the game was released. Assassin's Creed 3. The mission that we've selected here is called Chasing Lee. And it's exactly what it sounds like. You are chasing Charles Lee. But this isn't your typical tailored mission that you get from every Assassin's Creed title. This one has a bit more action. You end up running through the harbor where there's explosions, buildings get set on fire, buildings fall down. It is chaotic. And what makes this even better is the cutscene that follows after all of this gameplay. What's really interesting is that now if you were to go back and replay this, it's not quite the full experience as what it was for those OG players. There was actually a patch which made this significantly easier, but if you was playing this through the very first time, it also had a very hard challenge to it. But that just felt even more rewarding after completing. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. This is arguably the best Assassin's Creed game out there. Many people will put this at the top of their list. There are a lot of great missions, a lot of great side activities, as well as just some free roam events that you can go through. But the mission that we're going to be selecting is Do Not Go Gently. With this one, the description is quite simple. You must sail north to persuade Thatch into returning to the West Indies. Sounds like a simple task, but unfortunately once you get there, things take a dramatic turn. The pacing of this mission is honestly perfect. Slow start to it being ramping up as it gets to its climax and then slowly starts to fall back down, with there also being a twist at the end. With this mission, Edward only managed to escape with his life, and with it also including some of the big name characters, with some also not being able to make it, this one certainly hit hard. Assassin's Creed Rogue. Assassin's Creed Rogue follows a similar path as what Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag did. There are a lot of similarities, mainly because Ubisoft was on a very limited budget for this game. So they ended up reusing a lot of assets as well as gameplay features from what you saw in Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. But that wasn't a problem. There were still some amazing missions within here, and for this video we are selecting a mission called Kiri Ellison. This mission actually follows a similar layout to what Ubisoft did in the early days of Assassin's Creed, mainly Assassin's Creed 2, where it was not so much of you having to deal with loads of enemies, but you being able to parkour your way through an environment. Now Ubisoft did this many times as part of side activities, but this is the rare occasion where they brought it into the main quest line. It was certainly a change of pace, as you would sit back, relax and work out puzzles and go through parkour. Until the very end. You find a piece of Eden and things take a turn for the worse. That's when the city around you starts falling down and all you can do is try your best to escape. All you can do is keep on running towards the harbor as buildings set on fire, they explode, they fall down, and you just need to keep on pushing forward. This is another mission where Ubisoft have absolutely nailed the pacing. Assassin's Creed Unity. Some people love this game, some people hate it. But despite of your overall opinions, there are still some great missions within. One that stood out was Confrontation. Confrontation is a murder mystery. The missions before was a poisoning. And now you're looking to find the batch of poison, which will hopefully lead you to who the killer is. It's a slow start to another mission, but then there's a twist. A twist to find out exactly who the killer is. This, of course, leads to some confrontation, hence the title of this mission, a bit of back and forth dialogue until this goes into what is pretty much a boss battle. The battle itself ends up having different levels. It's not just a case of you go in there and assassinating. This is once you knock him down to a certain amount of health, it goes to a new location, as they jump through and push you through a window, or throw you off the side of the building. What stood out with this mission is the twist that not many people expected. And of course, with not many people expecting it, it threw even more people off with the final assassination. Assassin's Creed Syndicate. The best mission in my opinion is the final act. This is where you need to assassinate Maxwell Roth. Now this is also during the time where Assassin's Creed, they had these black box missions where they would put you into a set location, but in order for you to enter, well, there's multiple approaches, which is certainly nice, and this was also applied into Assassin's Creed Unity. So how you go through this is entirely up to you, but there's no mistake that this is still a massive highlight no matter which way you go, because Maxwell Roth is kinda insane. Maxwell Roth knows that Jacob Fry is after him, and because of that, he sets up a few decoys. After killing those decoys, Maxwell, well, there's no easy way to put this, but he ends up staying in a building whilst setting everything on fire with all the people inside. The final assassination itself is pretty easy, but this has always been a mission that's laid in my mind from initially going in stealthily to it all of a sudden the whole building's on fire with you having to take down what is essentially someone who is completely crazy. Assassin's Creed Origins. The mission that we selected for this video is the Lizard's Mask, and there's no easy way to say this. You need to fight off a massive snake, but it doesn't start out this way. You start out by carrying a small cauldron. Whilst carrying it, you pass out, so then you go into this hallucinogenic state. This is where you start to see the massive serpent, and you must fight it off using the bow of light. Now, as you're part of a hallucinogenic state, this does change quite frequently. It's not too challenging to take, but there will be certain parts of the mission which is broken down. But all in all, it was just a fun mission to play through. Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Assassin's Creed Odyssey is not my favorite title, it's actually probably towards that lower end, but it was still a mission that I thoroughly enjoyed. Odyssey had really good combat mechanics, which meant any type of battle was fun, but there was one mission which allowed you to have multiple. This was the We Will Rise mission. We Will Rise will start out depending on the choices that you made in previous missions before. We can't forget that this title had branching dialogue, but when you actually get into gameplay, it more or less plays out the same. It starts out with a pretty simple conquest battle. Not many enemies to go through, but it is fun because of those combat mechanics that we did just mention. This then starts to scale up into something a bit more dramatic, where there's a lot more enemies and you must defeat the ones which attacked. This in itself becomes a lot of fun simply because of the amount of enemies available. Once you get about halfway done, Deimos then comes rolling in. This is what leads to what has been described as a sad and violent cutscene. It builds up to what could potentially be an amazing boss battle, and then things take another turn where Cleon shoots him in the back. That's when you need to chase him down, and then leads to one final blow. And finally, we have Assassin's Creed Valhalla. This is a game with a story that spans out 60 hours in length. So of course there was going to be a mission that stands out, but the mission that I'm selecting isn't the one which has the most action, but is linked more into the story. This is the mission called A Brewing Storm. Throughout the whole of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, you will have a character which questions every decision that you make. This character is called Dag. No matter what choice you make, Dag will always say the complete opposite. There is simply no way in which you can please him. And that's when the mission A Brewing Storm comes in, because he's questioned you for one final time. This leads to a boss fight, and it's not so much of a challenging fight in itself. We're not even talking about this being part of late games. You don't even need to be that high of a level. It was just nice to finally see a resolution to what was someone that was questioning every single decision that you made, whether or not that decision was actually good or bad. And this also does play a significant part, because your choice on what happens at the end of A Brewing Storm will actually impact the final ending of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, because the choice is whether or not you're going to give Dag his axe or deny his axe. Your choice here can actually impact how Sigurd feels about you at the final moments of Valhalla. But as I said, more than anything, it was just fun taking out Dag. He was such an annoying character. But there we go, these are some of the best missions from every Assassin's Creed. This video is just based on personal preference of what always stood out to me within the various Assassin's Creed titles. So if you agree, disagree, let me know all your thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, then I highly recommend clicking the next video, which is on screen. Very similar to this one where we went through every single title, highlighting the best missions. Within this video on screen, we're going through every single Assassin's Creed, highlighting the best thing from each. So if you do want to see that, click that video and I'll be over there to guide you through each and every single one.